Alright everybody, this is BrickBuilder here, and welcome back to another episode of Minecraft Let's Build Desert Village. And today, we got a bit of a game plan. I think that we need to start getting some actual buildings that are more residential inside of here, because we already have our town hall slash castle area, a nice little marketplace, a little well, and then a little creeper statue here. But we really need to get to work and kind of get some basic residential areas laid out. And so I think to start this off right over here, I would like to put some form of a multiple story high building, because I feel like that could kind of work. So I really want to go for something like this. And I'm thinking we need to make sure there's a 3-block here, at least, or somewhere in it. We could definitely just do that. That should work. So how big is that? That's a 7, it would seem, I think, if I remember correctly. Boom. Seems about right. I think that'll work. Even if it isn't exactly the same number, I think it'll actually be better if it isn't the same number. But just for, like, I guess creativity in the inside and stuff. But we need this spot here left open. And what we're going to do is we're going to kind of give this a very open feel. You know, like this is kind of more of a walk-in place. We want to give it that little arch design there. I think that could definitely work. Or we do that, which I think might be even better for what we're going for. We're gonna use these kind of as the pillar on the edges, I'm thinking, just because it kind of works pretty well. But this is almost like an apartment complex, but we're only really focusing on building the actual, you know, building. We're not really gonna focus too much on furnishing the inside for the most part at the moment, at least. Because I mean, that's something we can always spend, you know, another time on the furnishing, since that's not really crucial to the completion of the build, which is, you know, important. Obviously interiors are important, but that could be a whole nother episode where we focus on interiors. Right here we got to focus on the actual building. So what we're going to do now is we're going to throw creeper here, because this is going to be like the halfway point, and then we're going to go with upside down stairs, and we might, that's because that'll give us a bit of depth changed here, but it's also going to let us have a bit of a change here, which you'll see in a second, because I need this build to have some form of, I guess, style, and you'll really see the style come out right here now, because we're gonna actually bump it out one more, and this level here actually makes the build get bigger. The build, like on this level here, is now it's gonna be slightly bigger since there's gonna be that one extra block, and this is gonna give us a pretty interesting design, strictly because if we mirror this in other builds, it'll really give our town a certain bit of character and really display some architectural advancements, which is something that we really want to focus on, just because the architecture in a town really can define its lore or its story, which is important. So for this town, maybe it was something to do with space. So instead of, like, you know, focusing on multiple, like, different residential areas, they tried to compact it into, like, sky high multiple level buildings, you know, like, as that was a more efficient way of doing this, essentially, at the time, I would assume, for them, at least with our town's lore. But this is going to be pretty good. I'm thinking we're going to go too high and then just throw a roof on it. I don't really want to go higher than too high, just because I think if we go any higher than this 2-story building, it's not going to work. Now, obviously, we might end up trying to replicate this around. We might not. I'm not really sure, although this will definitely be a pretty good size in comparison to everything else. It's definitely a pretty decent building in size, at least, I would say. I mean, yes, the marketplace is a lot smaller in comparison, but at the same time, you gotta remember that our marketplace was designed to be stalls set up with just a couple merchants. So, I mean, it wasn't really designed for the whole concept of having a giant, you know, like, market, because since that was not going to be this town's, like, vast priority, I guess. Although obviously farming can't be one, it just wouldn't make sense with the whole desert theme here to just have farming be a huge aspect. So we're not really going to focus on a lot of farming in this build, just because the thing is, whenever you're building, like, anything, you really need to keep lore in mind, at least in my personal opinion. Having lore makes things, like, so much better and easier, you know, like a reason for it. And not so much like an actual, like, practicality reason, but more of just a reason that you can, you know, justify that you're, like, you know, building this. Like, there'd be a reason for this. Like, there'd be a reason in real life or in theory for this, you know. I think that really helps with a lot of builders who are struggling to kind of figure out what to add. Like, we're adding this because we need the whole extra residence space, but we don't want to give it to them in just, you know, a really boring or drab way. We try to get a little bit creative with it. And now here, we're gonna try to carpet this. I'm really gonna like this carpet, I think, just because, you know, this little bit of carpet will add a little bit of detail here, a much needed detail here. Yeah, we could just do something like that. That definitely works, you know. Something like that is pretty good if you ask me. Just because I do want to keep that yellow, since we do have the terracotta inside of the town hall, which we did finish building last episode. So if you guys haven't already checked that out, you might want to go do so. And I'm thinking we could probably even checkerboard this and get away with it. So we might go ahead and just do that. I think it could definitely work here. Although sometimes checkerboard carpets don't work, so you got to be a little bit careful with them. But in this case, it works pretty well since it kind of matches the overall colors of everything else. And we want to keep this kind of open and walk-in style. And what we're going to do is right over here, we're going to kind of throw this down. And then we're going to kind of like, you know, give it that little bit of structure design here with the arches that we really want to focus on. Because arches are going to really show off, again, another architectural advancement. If you have arches in your builds, at least at the, like in older times, it was definitely a show of power and wealth, which is something that we do want to kind of convey, since this is going to be a higher like area, although they won't have a door strictly because I think that we want to keep the open feel as well, since that is something that most of the buildings in the town will have, which we don't currently have a name for the town, but we'll figure that out later on in the series, you know. And we got our little bit of a walkway up like there, you know, very easy setup, nothing too complicated. Now we'll just put in a little bit of a floor here, but we're definitely doing pretty good on this 2-story building, and I definitely think we're going to be able to keep it up and have this thing look pretty nice when it is completed, which it's definitely not 100% there yet, and we definitely will do a little bit of furnishing on the inside, but it's not going to be a huge deal, merely because, you know, this is more of a show building than something you'd actually ever go inside. So there's not much of a purpose to us actually spending time decorating the inside and, you know, really building up this place, I guess you could say. But now we're going to go with something like this. And I really want to go with some form of, we got to get these to kind of close somehow, because we can't keep these walls open. It just wouldn't work. So I'm thinking we can do this here at least. Just because, you know, if we have those little bit of, like, I guess, pillars in there, that'll give us some areas to really focus on the actual build while still kind of clearing, you know, some like simple space, because we also want to make sure that not everything is too complicated, because then that would just be unrealistic with this resource that they have. You know, they're building everything pretty much out of whatever they can find in the desert. So you gotta remember that although they want to make cool things, they have to have some limitation here. Like, I mean, they can only do so much with what they have, and if we kind of go out of, like, you know, like, I guess, you know, like, out of character here, it's really going to show in our town as a whole, and it's not going to look good overall. So it's very important that whenever you build something, you kind of keep it, I guess, realistic to the location and also your lore again. You know, what time they're building with it and how advanced the civilization you're making is really going to be. Which in this case is, we want a somewhat advanced, but we also want a realistic feeling, which we're not going to be able to get if we make this too complicated. But I do like the windows with the stairs. We've been doing that quite a bit throughout here, and it definitely does work pretty well, as you can see. Now, of course, we lost all of that stuff. Thank you, 1.12, for the interesting new hotbar changes. There we go. Is that what I wanted? Let's see. No, I don't want these like that. I want these the other way. Dang it. Well, it's okay. That's just a quick little change. Just a couple blocks, you know, swapped in and out. Boom. I mean, because as you can see, these windows are definitely noticeable, but they're not as big as if we were to leave just anywhere open, which is one of the big things, because we can't just leave everywhere open and expect it to really have a fortified, you know, look. Because we need, you know, obviously a house needs some form of actual shelter. That's why a lot of people, you know, would own a house. It just makes sense that way instead of living in other forms. Just because the weather and heat must have been crazy in the desert, that they would never want to, you know, like, rely on tents. I mean, yes, the marketplace is full of tents, but you gotta remember that's a marketplace, so it's going to be completely different. And now we're going to be able to add a bit of a roof on here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take birch, because I think birch will definitely be the material we use for roofs on almost all builds that actually end up getting roofs. Just because, you know, not everything here is going to get a roof. For instance, the marketplace, you know, that doesn't have actual roofs. That is more of like a wool topping, I guess you could say. But not every build is actually going to need a roof. But since this is a house, obviously it's going to need it. And the reason why I would never build this out of sandstone is just because I feel like it doesn't really work if we build the entire thing out of sandstone. You need to have a pretty good block palette, which you don't really get if I focus too much on sandstone in here. You're gonna end up seeing way too much sandstone and nothing else. And also, I just think it makes more sense that they would build the roofs out of a wood type. I feel like that would just make a lot of sense. Although their wood supply must have been limited, they would definitely probably put it towards something as a roof, since wood is slightly easier, in my personal opinion, to maneuver with for building in real life and like lore wise than the actual sandstone would be, just because sandstone as sedimentary rock would not be ideal for a roof at all, just because, you know, it is a bunch of compressed sediment or whatnot. But that's enough of a bit of a, you know, rock lesson right there. I like this roof just because it's a little bit steeper, which we definitely need, because I think if we have a small roof on a big building, it's not going to work. Now, yes, this building is taller than the town hall, and that is something I'm aware. So that might be a bit of a problem. We might end up having to world edit up the town hall and then like make a mountain underneath it or something. I don't really know if that's something we should do. You can let me know your feedback, because I feel like that might be something we want to do, just because, I mean, we definitely want the town hall to be a focal point, and I feel like this build might almost take it away from it, which is a bit of a problem. But it's definitely nothing that we can really alter at the moment, because I want to know your opinion on it too, guys, since obviously, although I am building this, I do quite value all your guys' feedback, since you guys do give me some pretty good feedback in the comments section. And there we go, we got that. Beautiful. Now, as you can look from the bottom here, you don't really even see the roof that much from like a very close distance, you know, but you do see it from quite the farther distance, and it is definitely noticeable that these are smaller than that. But I don't know if that's such a bad thing. That roof there definitely does work with this type of build. And then we got to throw our nice little endstone trail up into this thing, you know, because that's kind of what we've been using for roads around here, just to kind of lay out everything. And it's really looking good, because I think that the similar like pigments between the two blocks definitely works without getting crazy with it, which is definitely something that I like, because I feel like if it got too crazy with the different colors being too similar or too different, then that would have been a problem. Now, we can't really decorate too much up here, strictly just because of the whole limitations that we actually have with the carpet. But I'm okay with it, just because it doesn't really, you know, matter, to be honest, the second floor, since we're never going to actually go up here. I do want to do some slight stuff to the bottom floor, and I'm just going to cover up this roof, just because we don't really want people being able to peer up into the high roof. It's just not a pretty sight for the, you know, I guess the residents of this building. Since it is a 2-story building, we probably would likely want to throw some stuff such as a bed over here and over here. Maybe, actually, that's probably would not make sense. Why would they ever put a bed over there? Not really sure. We're gonna stick those up there, yeah, because then if we stick those up there, we're gonna take out this thing known as a flower pot, and we're gonna try to get some extra orange in it with using this. You know, we definitely want that orange, but now we also have a little bit of green, which is definitely something we have to be aware of, because the green could be good, but it also could be very bad. And we might be able to even throw some terracotta into this. I'm not really sure if we can in a good way, so I'm not going to really push it if it doesn't work, because I'm not sure if this is going to work here. But we could definitely try it. Do we want to force the unnatural here? I don't know if that's something we really should do. I mean, we definitely could do it, but not a huge fan, I don't think. But I do like the whole lowering of this floor here. I do think that could definitely work, but just not really digging the whole terracotta being forced in here, just because we gotta remember that we need to do things with terracotta properly, like we have with the floor inside of here. We have a very nice looking floor in here. But now, let's see, how does this look when you walk in? I think it looks pretty good if you ask me already. Now, what else could we do in here just to give it a bit more of, you know, a sort of, I guess, homey feel? We'll throw some chests over there. Maybe we can throw a crafting table, you know, right there and right there. I don't know, does that feel almost too symmetrical? I'm not sure, it might. Maybe we can throw a little bit of a actual, like, oh my gosh, okay, we lost those items, but I feel like we can maybe throw an actual tree sort of feel over here. Because, I mean, you won't really notice it too much, but it'll definitely be a decent thing if you do notice it. Plus, that adds a little bit of greenery in here, which will definitely contrast nicely with this green over here, you know, just because having a bit of green will definitely help us out in the long run, I feel, just because it's like another color in there. And also with the cactuses and stuff, it would make sense that they would have some green. Not a lot of green, but they could obviously afford some green because they do have cactuses, which are one of the natural resources of this area. But I think that's going to about do it for today's episode of Minecraft Let's Build. We built a pretty successful 2-story building. Hopefully you guys learned something. If you guys did enjoy, make sure to let me know with a comment. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe and leave a like. And I'll see you guys in another episode of Minecraft Let's Build. Bye!